Northern Mali conflict, Islamist nationalist conflict, June to November 2012. After the withdrawal of Malian government forces from the region, former co-belligerents Ansar Dine, Mojwa, and the MNLA soon found themselves in conflict with each other as well as the populace. On April 5, 2012, Islamists, possibly from Akim or Mojwa, entered the Algerian consulate in Gao and took hostages. The MNLA succeeded in negotiating their release without violence, and one MNLA commander said that the movement had decided to disarm other armed groups. On 8 April, a mostly Arab militia calling itself the National Liberation Front of Azawad, FNLA, announced its intention to oppose Tuareg rule, battle the MNLA, and return to peace and economic activity. The group claimed to consist of 500 fighters. The MNLA clashed with protesters in Gao on 14 May, reportedly injuring 4 and killing 1. On 6 June, residents of Kidal protested against the imposition of Sharia in the town and in support of MNLA, protests which were violently dispersed by Ansar Dine members. By the night of 8 June, MNLA and Ansar Dine rebels clashed against each other in the city with automatic weapons, with 2 dying in the skirmish. In early June, Nigerian President Muhammadu Ishafu stated that Afghan and Pakistani jihadists were training Tuareg Islamist rebels. Battle of Gao and aftermath. Clashes began to escalate between the MNLA and the Islamists after a merger attempt failed, despite the signing of a power-sharing treaty. Protests broke out on June 26, 2012 in the city of Gao, the majority of whose people are not Tuaregs, as opposed to the MNLA, but rather sub-Saharan groups such as the Songhi and Fula peoples. The protesters opposed the Tuareg rebels and the partition of Mali. 2 were killed as a result of the protests, allegedly by MNLA troops. The protesters used both Malian and Islamist flags, and France 24 reported that many locals supported the Islamists as a result of their opposition to the Tuareg nationalists and the secession of Azawad. On June 26, 2012, the tension came to all-out combat in Gao between the MNLA and Mojwa, with both sides firing heavy weapons. MNLA Secretary General Bilal Agay Karif was wounded in the battle. The MNLA were soon driven from the city, and from Kidal and Timbuktu shortly after. However, the MNLA stated that it continued to maintain forces and control some rural areas in the region. As of October 2012, the MNLA retained control of the city of Ménaka, with hundreds of people taking refuge in the city from the rule of the Islamists, and the city of Tinzawadi near the Algerian border. In the same month, a splinter group broke off from the MNLA, calling itself the Front for the Liberation of the Azawad, FPA. The group stated that Tuareg independence was no longer a realistic goal and that they must concentrate on fighting the Islamists. Takeover of Douentza and Ménaka. On September 1, 2012, Mojwa took over the southern town of Douentza, which had previously been held by a Songhai secular militia, the Ganda ISO. A Mojwa spokesman said that the group had had an agreement with the Ganda ISO, but had decided to occupy the town when the militia appeared to be acting independently, and gained control of the town following a brief standoff with Ganda ISO. Once Mojwa troops surrounded the city, the militia reportedly surrendered without a fight and were disarmed. On November 16, 2012, Tuareg MNLA forces launched an offensive against Gao in an attempt to retake the town. However, by the end of the day, the Tuaregs were beaten back by the Mojwa forces after the Islamists laid an ambush for them. A Malian security source said that at least a dozen MNLA fighters were killed while the Islamists suffered only 1 dead. An MNLA official stated that their forces killed 13 Mojwa fighters and wounded 17, while they suffered only 9 wounded. On November 19, 2012, Mojwa and Akim forces took over the eastern town of Ménaka, which had previously been held by the MNLA, with dozens of fighters from both sides and civilians killed. On the first day of fighting, the MNLA claimed its forces killed 65 Islamist fighters, while they suffered only 1 dead and 13 wounded. The Islamists for their part stated they killed more than 100 MNLA fighters and captured 20.